These small cars really have their work cut out for them. Hi guys, Eric here and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be having a look at this 2007 Chevrolet Spark 1.0 LS. It is clever, but not in the way you might think.
A really big thank you to the accommodating, thoughtful and helpful staff here at ASJ Motors. They have a huge selection of quality used cars located in two locations in the Overberg region. One is in the industrial area of Hermanus, the other is located on the main road of Verliesdorp. They are open for business, so be sure to check out their catalogue, link in the description box below.
If you live in the Western Cape and you have an original car in good condition you would like me to review, please get in touch. There's an email address in the description box below. The Spark is a small A-segment car from General Motors. It actually started life as a Matisse, a small car from South Korean company Daewoo, but GM bought Daewoo in 2003 and it changed to the Chevrolet for South Africa, Europe and America, Holden for Australia and VinFast for Vietnam. The very first generation, called the Daewoo Matisse, was released in 1998. It used a design by Ital Design that was actually meant for Fiat, but after Fiat rejected it, Daewoo took ownership. It was released with a 0.8-litre inline-3 engine that produced a monstrous 38 kilowatt and 69 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour took 17 seconds. It received a facelift in the year 2000 and gained a 4-cylinder 1-litre petrol unit after Daewoo was bought over by GM. Power shot up by 10 kilowatts, which was a welcome addition to a city car. The Matisse also scored an admirable adult occupation score of 3 out of 5 stars. Not bad for a car in its class. This is the second generation that was released in 2005. This generation had better fuel economy thanks to a lower drag coefficient. With this model, you had a choice of a 0.8-litre 3-cylinder from the previous model that produced 38 kilowatt and 69 Newton meters of torque, or a 1-litre 4-cylinder engine that produced a much better 49 kilowatt and 87 Newton meters of torque. Still, 0 to 100 of this particular model takes a very long 15.4 seconds. For a city car though, do you really need more? Styling wise, I think it looks alright. Considering what Toyota came up with recently with the Agya, the Spark is much more reserved and understated, and it really works in its favour. The front end looks cute with big eyes and a narrow and high stance, much like a lot of A-segment cars today. The rear looks a lot like the previous generation, but it still looks neat and unassuming. I must admit though, the third generation is much more attractive, youthful and cohesive. Let's have a look inside though. Okay, first things first. The Spark is an inexpensive car, and it shows. Not only by way of its use of materials, fit and finish and build quality, but also because the general design is quite old, so it's a good idea to adjust your expectations accordingly when you view one. Okay, with that out of the way, there's quite a lot to like about this interior. It is really spacious in here, much more roomy than the exterior would want you to believe. Then there's the standard equipment: electric front windows, a driver's airbag, air conditioning and a ref counter is all standard fare. For this price point, not bad. On the other hand, there are quite a few things not to like about the interior. It is extremely bland in here. Like Clarkson said, it feels like I'm sat in Eeyore's bottom. Everything is black or grey and nothing in between. I don't really get a cheap and cheerful vibe from this car. Let's take a closer look though, starting with the door panel. While it's big, it's surprisingly big. It's also very thin and very flat. There aren't really design lines so much as there are protrusions for an armrest and a door pocket. Said door pocket is surprisingly long though, if a bit thin, and there's a secondary compartment integrated into the door's grab handle. The doors do feel very light though, and a hollow sound can be heard when you close them. This is true for all its rivals though, so this isn't really a criticism, more of an observation. I do, however, have a qualm about the steering wheel. Its design is alright, it kind of reminds me of older American cars, but it is so boring. Even the logo is grey. It's as though it is trying to be depressed. It isn't adjustable for rake nor reach, so finding a comfortable driving position is quite tricky. And the stalks feel old and cheap. Thankfully, they are very easy to understand. Design-wise at least, the dials must be the highlight for me in this cabin. It is situated in the center of the dash as opposed to in front of the driver. It is very easy to read, and it has this beautiful blue background. There isn't a trip computer though, but I wasn't expecting one. One thing I am sorely missing is a water temperature gauge. This is something that to me should be in every single car because it is such an important piece of information that we are denied in this case. The climate controls are foolproof ergonomically. It's just a pity that they feel extremely cheap to use. This is standard fare across the segment though, so I'll let it slide for that. The seat, on the other hand, is a prime example of why city cars are not meant to do long distances. These seats are firm. Very firm, so much so that I'm already starting to feel a slight backache. Now, while firm seats aren't a crime by any means, it does mean that if you are looking to do long distance cruising, it's a better idea to look for a slightly bigger car, even if you have to pay a bit more money. Your bum and your back will thank you later. It must be noted though that I love the fabric that it is finished in. It is soft and it is velvety, and I wish that more manufacturers would use it. With the design part out of the way, let's talk practicality. When it comes to storage solutions, this little Spark claws back quite a few points. The undampened glove box is of a very decent size. You get 2 trays both in front and behind of the gear lever, 2 quite small cup holders, a much bigger singular cup holder behind the gear lever, 2 big tray areas at the bottom of either side of the dash, decently sized door pockets, and even a sunglasses holder. That is not bad for this type of car. The people in the back won't feel quite as happy as those in the front though. With the exception of the aforementioned cup holder, small coin compartments, and a small tray that looks like a soap holder, there are no storage solutions back here at all. Also, while knee room is just about acceptable, headroom is quite scarce, especially when you sit up straight. For some reason, the Spark was classified as a 5-seater, which means that the seatbelt for the middle passenger pokes directly into my back. A 5-seater? Really? Thankfully, the window line is relatively low and the actual windows are big, which is great for children. Also, you can slide your feet underneath the front seat, so you know, that's something. The boot, while deep, is also quite small. At 170 litres, it is enough for the weekly shop, but not much more. You do get a full-size spare wheel though, which is ultimately more important. The rear seat can also fold down in a 60-40 split, which is impressive, but for some reason they don't seem to want to stay down. It's as though it is catching on something. Now this could only be this example though. Regardless, this does result in quite a ridge that hinders through loading, and the load lip is very high. To me, this is where the little Spark claws back some points. This engine is a real gem. It is so refined that at idle you can neither feel nor hear it. The turning circle is nice and tight, the clutch feels progressive, and there's great all-round visibility, so the little Spark is perfectly suited for the concrete jungle. As standard, you don't get power steering, but because the Spark is so light, you don't really miss it. A quick tip for lighter steering: if it is safe, let the car crawl forward. The steering will light up tremendously. Out on the twisties, and you can tell that the Spark is out of its depth, mostly due to quite a bit of body roll. The steering actually gives quite a moderate amount of feedback, but the engine feels just a little bit too weak, and the gearbox does not really like to be rushed. Out on the open road, and again, the Spark feels just a little bit out of its depth. Wind noise, road noise, and tyre roar is quite apparent, and the little engine feels a little bit weak as well as a little bit loud at speed. That's because at 120 kilometers an hour, the engine revs at 4,000 RPM. The seats are also quite uncomfortable, so there are definitely better suited cars out there for long distance cruising. Considering South Africa is a developing country, the Spark had a lot of competition. There was the Hyundai Atos, which was just as honest and had a slightly bigger engine, the Kia Picanto that had a grille only a mother could love, and the very good Corsa Light, which was much quicker but not quite as well equipped. There are many examples of all of them still on the road today, so be sure to check all of them out. Reliability seems to be very strong on these little cars, probably because there isn't too much that can go wrong with them. It must be said though, be sure to find one with a full service history. That way you know it has been well taken care of. For more tips and tricks on buying a used car, be sure to check out my used car buying guide. Link is in the description box below. So, it might not have a ridiculously advanced brain. It is extremely well packaged, and that makes it clever in a way that a lot of people really need. It is surprisingly practical, quite roomy, especially up front, and it is peppy as well. But nothing comes close to its personality. This is a type of car that you would want to hug and make part of the family. And for that, Chevrolet deserves an applause. Well done, Chevrolet. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give it a thumbs up. It makes the world of difference to my channel. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe and you'll get notifications of upcoming videos. I have loads more coming up, so stay tuned. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Until next time, bye.